From the latest on Caribbean cruises to kosher safaris, pilgrimages to Jewish Eastern Europe, and award-winning wines and international cuisine in sun-drenched Tel Aviv. Sit back and enjoy the trip with the travel edition of the Jerusalem Post podcast.
Welcome back to China. Hello, David.
Hello, good morning. And we've moved from South China to Eastern China.
We are in, I would say, the beautiful city, but we're on the way from the airport, so I can't tell you if it's beautiful. I assume it is.
A lot of skyscrapers.
Yes. The buildings are much older here, though. That's the first thing I've noticed, straight away.
Compared to the last time that you probably heard from us, which was in Shenzhen, this is, well, why don't we do it this way and see if you can guess. World's largest port.
World's largest metro system.
50-odd five-star hotels.
Third tallest building in the world at time of recording.
Just huge. Oh, population we didn't do.
Third largest in the world as well.
A staggering 29 million people. Have you guessed which city it is yet?
Well, I have, because I got off at the airport here.
We are in
Beijing.
Next time. We are in Shanghai. Welcome to a place with a tremendous story. From fishing port a couple of hundred years ago to one of the world's biggest cities, and a wonderful Jewish story to tell as well.
And plenty of drugs.
Yes, opium.
Yes.
We may or may not get that story, but absolutely.
Is there a link between the Jews and the drugs?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
We'll see if we get there, but yes, there is. So if you don't hear it in this podcast, look it up online. Quiz question?
Okay. Is it your turn or mine?
It's always your turn.
It's always my turn, because I'm the boffin with Google. Shanghai, what does it mean? That's a short question for you.
The answer at the end of the pod.
To talk the latest news in Israel, the Jewish world, and everything in between.
This is the J-Post Podcast. I'm Tamar Uriel-Beery, Deputy Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Tzvika Klein, Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post.
And I'm Sarah Ben-Nun, Night Editor at the Jerusalem Post. Join us as we bring some of the most impactful voices to bring you into what it means to be Jewish, to be Israeli today.
Every week, we bring you with us into the newsroom in every sense.
Stop being so dramatic. This is just our coffee break.
You can find us every Thursday on jpost.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We'll see you there.
Yalla, bye.
My name is Fu Jihong. I'm the Vice President of Shanghai People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries.
We've just been sitting in a very interesting meeting with yourself and our delegation from Israel, where you told us about Shanghai being a record-breaking city that is the biggest for so many things. Can you tell us some of the achievements and records that belong to Shanghai?
Well, Shanghai so far is the largest economic center in China. But in one sentence, I should say that Shanghai right now is working very hard to realize its five centers initiative. Namely, the Shanghai is going to be international trade, economic, shipping, financial, and sci-tech center.
You're twinned with Haifa.
Two cities enjoyed very good working relations.
And how do you see the importance of the relationship between your city and with Israel in general?
It's very important. It's very important to us. We have so far twinned, if I remember exactly, more than 77 cities around the whole world. And as I said, Shanghai's success lies very much on its opening up policy. So we do want to do more in this regard, to working together with our counterparts in the world to realize the so-called win-win situation in the economic and social development.
David and I present the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. We tell people about cities and countries around the world and where to visit and what to do. What does Shanghai have to offer for tourists from overseas?
You come at the very right time. We recently launched our first international portal.
The best place to go to is english.shanghai.gov.cn. Thank you. You're listening to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Hello, David.
You got your feet up.
I have, and I've stopped shaking my phone, which is a funny thing here in China, because if you've got the WeChat chat app, which is the WhatsApp equivalent here, and you shake it, it's a way of finding somebody else who's shaking their phone at the time nearby.
Have you found anybody?
No, because I was shaking it because my wire wasn't plugged in properly.
That's your story. Here we are in Shanghai. We've been here for a few hours. We've had 2-3 drives around the city because we've been going from meeting to meeting and a bit of food in the middle. So what's your first impression? And don't tell me it's Jimmy Cagney.
I can't actually do Jimmy Cagney. My first impression is this has the feel of a modern capital city. And it's not a capital city, it's just a big, big city.
It's a financial capital city.
It is, if there is such a thing. I mean, there's a primary city which has the largest population,
Right.
of which this sort of is.
Right.
And then you've got a capital city where the seat of government is.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, if there's anybody out there still listening after I've spoken about capital cities and primary cities.
It's true. You think about, like, a lot of our listeners are in the United States. Washington, D.C. is the seat of government, is the capital of the nation. But it's not the economic driver. It's not necessarily the first place that people think about in terms of where do you want to travel.
Very true. My first impression driving round is you can feel elements of different cultures here. We've been past churches, we've been past temples, we've been past great big glass towers, and amongst all of that there are buildings that look like they're 100 years old, 150 years old, which I think reflects the longer history of Shanghai than some of the other cities in China.
You've travelled a little bit around the former British Empire, particularly in Asia. Do you get that feeling at all that this is the sort of place where there's the raffles and that type of things? There's a mixture of the brand new, but also that period, sort of Victorian era architecture and buildings and so on?
Definitely, and as we drove past the riverbank, there was a road called Raffles. So there's definitely that Raffles feel.
Okay.
And then in the other direction, there was the sign to the Shanghai Jewish Refugees Museum. You definitely know that there's more history here than some of the more modern cities from the freeing up of China that started in the 70s and the 80s under Deng Xiaoping.
Again, we've only just got here, but are you feeling that this is a tourist city?
I think more so, yes. If you look at our itinerary here and compare it to Shenzhen, where we were a few days ago, and you can hear all of that on our previous China podcast, there was a lot more visiting businesses or business-related sites. Shenzhen, a city that barely existed 40 years ago, is the home of the automated vehicle, electric vehicles, transportation management, high-tech. Shanghai is a centre of trade, of commerce, of finance, a much older set of businesses and more history. I'm looking out the window now from the hotel. Even the towers are 20, 30 years older.
The second port of call was quite literally a port of call. We went to the Shanghai port headquarters. As we said right at the start of this podcast, Shanghai port is the biggest port in the world. They have interests far beyond just the city.
Yes, Shanghai International Port Group, which manages the port in Shanghai, manages the Bay Port in Haifa, a new private port next to the original port of Haifa. The port here in Shanghai has a deep sea terminal that is fully automated, and it's tried to bring a lot of that automation technology to Israel to create a more efficient, more modern port to help save people money in Israel.
It was interesting to hear from the management of the port about the history and development of this port. It began life on the Yangtze River, which flows into the East China Sea at Shanghai. With time, as the company expanded, they actually took over more and more ports inland along the Yangtze. I think as many as 20 ports are now owned by this one company. But as container ships around the world got bigger and bigger and needed deeper and deeper waters, they decided to create a deep sea port offshore.
Shanghai as a city has had a number of different cultures and invaders that have come here. be it the British, be it the French, be it the Japanese. And you can feel, less so the Japanese, they weren't here as long, but you can certainly feel some British culture here, some French culture, as well as the internationalization of the city. There are subways here. Apparently there are more coffee shops in Shanghai than anywhere else in the world. It has that feel of an international city, as well as being a Chinese city.
We're going to take a look at the rest of the city and bring you some of the sights and sounds. If you are interested in the port, so one of the things that you can do, you're not going to be able to actually get in where the containers are, but you'll be able to sort of overlook it. And one part of the port is 32.5 kilometres offshore, which is approximately 20 miles, give or take. And you can drive out on that bridge. It's a bridge that goes all the way out into the water, and you can go there and see how all of these containers are loaded. Many of them, one of the biggest customers in terms of imports and exports is the United States, but also up there you may even spot one or two containers with ZIM on the side, and that's ZIM, which is the Israeli shipping company.
So let's go and explore the city. I think we might start by hitting the streets. Let's hope we have as much fun here as we did in Shenzhen and find people on the streets doing crazy things. Outside of Buenos Aires, where would you recommend visiting?
Tell us why you've got a passion for Jewish history as an author.
Is there something unique here that you won't see anywhere else in Georgia or even the world?
Why on earth would you take this incredible boat and launch it in Israel, of all places?
Has David Hasselhoff been to the David Hasselhoff Museum?
You're listening to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition with Mark Gordon and David Harris.
文章雪糕啊，上海文章雪糕，你是要这个啊？
The lady is selling ice creams, I believe, on a stick, and they are moulded into the shapes of...
The Shanghai skyline.
Absolutely gorgeous. We are in the middle of madness. We'll refer a few times probably back to the podcast in Shenzhen, but you may possibly remember that when we were there, we went to a street that was absolutely mad.
We went to Dongmeng Liao Street, which is one of the oldest shopping streets in Shenzhen. The whole city is 40 years old, so nothing's really old. But now we're in the shopping centre of Shanghai. This is called East Nanjing Street, or East Nanjing Road. Is it a street or a road, David?
It's a translation, so it doesn't matter.
And this is Times Square on heat. As David has said earlier, there are somewhere between 25 and 30 million people in this city, and on an evening, it looks like all of them have come here.
So something Mark told me is that just before COVID, almost 400 million Chinese chose Shanghai as their preferred holiday destination, and probably quite a good number of them are here too, because, as we experienced a few minutes ago, they all like to congregate.
And where they really end up congregating is at the road crossing. There are so many people trying to cross the junctions that the police have to put a fence down the middle of the road and herd people like cats with lights and whistles, and you've got a minute to get across the road, and we never did it.
It was absolutely remarkable. Just wall-to-wall humanity. Let's just talk a little bit about where we're standing now.
We've come off a small side street on Nanjing Road, and there was a sign saying goods, food and art, and a picture of a whale. I'm not quite sure what they're eating. Hopefully it's not a whale. It looks like ice cream and sweet treats.
It looks whaley good.
But at the end of the street, there's a great big lit inflatable whale drawing people in, lights above us, like a mini food market.
Between us and the whale, first of all, two of our colleagues from Israel are eating ice cream. What flavour ice cream have you got?
It's cubes of yogurt ice cream. It's mixed with mango, grape, cherry, and all sorts of really fun stuff.
And yours?
Well, it's a mix with chocolate and nougat and berries and strawberries and peach. Quite nice.
One of the things that we have discovered while we've been here, we knew this would be the case, but it's different fruits to ones that we see at home.
And here they make tomatoes fruits. For the dessert tonight, we had a tomato as a fruit.
Which is indeed a fruit.
See, the Chinese know what they're doing here. Shanghai Fact Farm. The main airport is Shanghai Pudong International. There are direct flights to Shanghai from the US with American Airlines, Delta, United and China Eastern. You can also fly to Shanghai direct with Air Canada, Air France, British Airways, Emirates, Etihad, KLM and Lufthansa. The route from Tel Aviv with Hainan Airlines is currently on hold, but you can connect in Shenzhen. You can take the Shanghai Metro Line 2 from the airport station to People's Square Metro Station. The journey takes about an hour and costs around $1. You can speed up the journey by taking the maglev train to Nanjing Road and then changing to Metro Line 2. There are also 2 airport bus lines available to the city centre. A taxi will take around 45 minutes and cost $25. There are nearly 5,000 hotels in Shanghai. Recommended hotels in the city include the Peninsula, Bulgari, Fairmont Peace, Ritz-Carlton, W and J Hotel Shanghai Tower. $1 will buy you 7.2 yuan. Shanghai weather is generally mild and moist with hot rainy summers and cold winters. July and August are the hottest months. The city's delta location means it rains for about 1/3 of the year. The best time to visit Shanghai is from March to May and October to November. Shanghai has a distinct cuisine known as Hu and is characterized by the use of soy sauce. Favorite dishes include xiaolongbao, which are soup dumplings, smoked fish slices and a myriad snacks. As Shanghai is China's most international city, cuisine from around the world is readily available. Shanghai still has a Jewish community, and kosher food can be obtained from Shanghai Kosher Market, a project of Chabad of Shanghai. Oh, David. That's not David.
I'm over here, Mark!
Ah, sorry, I thought that was you. I wondered what I was touching there.
That is an artistic version of David.
Ah, by Michaelangelo?
Well, by Michaelangelo on a serious dose of cocoa beans.
We're at Chocolate World, which is a mini museum and shop on Nanjing Road. And it is full of art and sculptures made of chocolate. What have we seen?
Well, what I'm seeing right now is lots of Chinese people staring at us. Because, to be honest, tonight we've seen very, very few Westerners in town. And suddenly there's 2 of us here with the microphone out. And they've all been watching us filming. You can see our videos as well of a chocolatey David. And you can imagine what we filmed there. So that's the impression I had so far. In fact, there's a gentleman over there filming us right now. But yeah, this is super cool.
I kind of wonder if we should be doing this here if no one else is, because we might be let out of the store in a minute. There were some wonderful paintings. There was the girl with the pearl earring, except it's not pearl, it's chocolate. There was The Scream by Edvard Munch, and you have to work out where you start munching it.
The reason we only recorded now is because Mark's been thinking up the puns for the last 15 minutes.
I might go back to the Venus de Milo. I've no idea where to start, but it looked really tasty.
You know what they say about the Venus de Milo? There's no harm in it.
Oh, David, this is lovely.
You spoke then with a Northern English accent, which you don't have.
I actually spoke with my mouth full, but I suppose that's what you talk like up north.
Lack of breeding from somebody from the south.
I try not to breed with people from the south. I've seen what happens.
We've already talked about the architecture around this city and saying that there's a mix, but predominantly, again, the older buildings tend to be enveloped by the larger modern skyscrapers. At some point driving through town this morning, we turned down a really narrow alley and the buildings suddenly looked considerably older. We entered a courtyard of a beautiful mansion.
And you're probably wondering why we're sitting in a mansion talking with our mouths full. I'm eating what used to be called in England a mini milk. I think David has an orange popsicle. They're both produced by a company called Bright Food, which is one of the largest food manufacturers in Shanghai, and coincidentally has a stake in Tnuva, which is Israel's largest dairy company. But this old house also houses something very special.
That's a song, isn't it? This old house has something special. This old house has something great. This old house has a museum to remind you of the past.
The address we're at is, I think, and excuse my pronunciation, Huchuan 263. It is a house belonging to an English barrister. It was built in 1899 and it retains many of the classical features. But what it houses is, I think, what is known locally as Lao Zhao, which are time-honoured brands. China has a lot of brands that date back 100, 150 years. Children, grandparents will have grown up with these brands, with these sewing machines, with these stores. And China is going through a period of trying to revive these brands. And this museum celebrates that.
In front of us are cans of, I guess it's fizzy orange, called Aquarius. This brand dates back well over 100 years that they've been producing different types of juices, and yet the brand still exists today. There's also water on the table. We've seen not only edibles, but also the history of manufacturing of production in this city, both on the smaller home level and also to some extent on the industrial.
It's very much based on consumer products. There's fashion, there's retail, there are China mugs, sporting goods, art goods, anything that people used to have in their home and possibly still have in their home now, but this is all about the modern branding.
This is one of the visitor centres that you can come to as a member of the public. It's right in the heart of town, as Mark already told you, and he'll say the address again because I can't remember any of these things. A lot of the displays, not all of them, but a lot of the displays are in English, and to be perfectly honest, you don't need the language skills here to walk down memory lane. And what's fascinating is to see the parallels between what there is here in China and what certainly Mark and I grew up with in the West, and I'm assuming it would be the same for most of you, our listeners, and it's well worth a visit, and it will bring a lot of smiles to your face.
If you want a deeper insight, then as we've said, a number of attractions that we've been to, try and come as part of an organised group with an English speaker. If you can bring someone Chinese with you who grew up here, then they can tell you about their childhood experiences, that they recognise drawing with the pencils that you see here, that they recognise playing table tennis, that their grandfather used to ride round in one of the bikes. It's really insightful to see how people grew up. People have a vision of China 50, 60 years ago, and it's very much a cinematic vision, a vision of people wearing uniform outfits, and yet you see going back 100 years there were very much large numbers of consumer brands within China, parallels of what we recognize in the Western world. The address again is Huchuan 263, and this is the Lao Zhao Time-Honored Brands exhibition.
Discover the future with Inside Israeli Innovation. I'm Eve Young from the Jerusalem Post, bringing you exclusive insights from Israel's top innovators. Each week, we dive into the latest trends in tech, business, and beyond with interviews from the brightest minds in the industry. Whether it's cutting-edge startups or revolutionary tech breakthroughs, Inside Israeli Innovation is your front row seat to the startup nation. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform and stay ahead of the curve. Inside Israeli Innovation, where innovation meets inspiration.
Folks, we have just enjoyed a wonderful lunch in a most unusual venue, and we're being filmed by lots of people while we're recording again.
Not for the first time. It's not often you walk into your restaurant and the table says Happy Hanukkah in August, and there is the writings of Chairman Mao in Hebrew, a jade mezuzah, and falafel.
And lots of Israeli music. As somebody said to us, one of our colleagues, it sounded like a kindergarten back in Israel.
Yes, it was a very eclectic list of Israeli songs, from modern Mizrahi to Friday night service to some of the songs of yesteryear in Israel. There must be a reason for it.
Well, we've come to a place where China and Israel come together to develop a better future for all of us. It's a vision shared by both countries. The leaders have committed to developing technology together, amongst other things, and we're in a park where that is coming to fruition.
This is the China-Israel Innovation Hub on the outskirts of Shanghai. This is a suburb that was once a town, then an industrial area. The site we're on used to be a pen factory, I believe.
Very close by, if not exactly here. What has happened in this area is it's become a business park, but in this particular case, it focuses on companies from both China and Israel. There are other companies who use this area, about 200, but of them, 50 have some form of partnership between Israel and China. It could be an Israeli-owned company, a Chinese-owned company, a joint venture. It could be that there's a development arm from one of those two countries.
We went to visit one of the companies, a cutting-edge technology company that deals with 3D, I suppose 3D scanning, really. One of the things they did was you can scan a crime scene and then you have a 3D picture that's available for the Chinese police. The company is called Mantis Vision. Let's hear a few words from the CEO of that company.
This is used by the car crash testing labs. So if you want to check whether the automobile is safe or not, traditionally after the crash you need to manually measure the deformation. So what we do is, before the crash, we scan the car, we get the geometry, surface, everything of the car. After crash, we scan second. So true 3D modeling can be transferred to the system to calculation the deformation. So can check the security level of the car. So it can save a lot of time for the labs.
From there, we walked just a few yards and went into a series of offices, and on the wall were bicycles.
Upstairs on the wall were bicycle frames for children's bikes, adult bikes, sports bikes, and they looked like they were moulded from various materials.
And there was a water machine moulded by them as well.
And like everywhere else here, there were multiple coffee machines, but I don't think they made that. The company is owned and run by an Israeli called Roy Grinfield. He has lived in Shanghai, I think, for the last 11 years. Before that was in Milan. We chatted briefly to Roy, we haven't interviewed Roy, about what it's like to be Israeli, to be Jewish in Shanghai. What is the life like?
Let's give you a few of the highlights. And it's fascinating. He's here with his Israeli wife. They are expecting their first child, a baby girl. We wish them much luck with that particular process. He was saying that prior to COVID, there were about 1,500 Israelis in the Shanghai area, but because of COVID, a lot of them moved out, so the community is considerably smaller. They predominantly live around the centre of the city, but not necessarily in the same neighbourhood. They get together quite a bit, but he also said he has quite a few Chinese friends as well.
He spoke about the food here. It's quite difficult to find food that matches what they like to eat, so they eat quite a lot at home and they eat a lot of Israeli food. He feels he's having a very good life here. I think things have changed a little bit since the war, not from a sense of security. I think people here still feel very safe. Roy actually said he can go into a restaurant, leave his laptop, leave his phone on the table, go to the bathroom, come back, and he's 100% sure it will be here. So from that point of view, it's a very interesting life. He finds it possibly different culturally, and there were some challenges here, but I think the main reason Roy is here, he said, was to do business.
And he finds it a very welcoming place in terms of, for example, if he wants to bring in employees from other areas, because he's involved in this park, he can get subsidies for his workers as they are renting apartments.
And he also said the thing about running a business, he was able to open the business very quickly. And when he goes to see his customers, bike manufacturers, they're all in areas where there's an integrated supply chain. The manufacturer will be there, the person that makes the wheels will be there, the person that makes the sprockets will be there. Everything is within short distances, and there's a very planned, very sensible business economy here.
If you visit this centre, make sure to see the exhibition all about the Jews of China as well.
And the falafel is rather good.
And now the Jerusalem Post podcast Travel Edition's Top 10 Tips for China. Visitors to China will need a visa to enter. This can be obtained from a Chinese embassy. Many websites such as Facebook, Google and Instagram are blocked in China. They may be accessed using your overseas SIM card and a roaming data package. English is not as widely used as in other tourist destinations. A translation app will be a great help. Watch out for Chinese public holidays. They can lead to very long queues at attractions. Drinking tap water isn't recommended in China. Bottled water is readily available and is usually very cheap. It's not customary to tip, and tips are likely to be refused. At markets and souvenir shops, always bargain to get the best price. Many Chinese people are not used to seeing foreigners. Don't be surprised if people ask for photos with you. Take a business card from your hotel. If you get lost, you can show it to a taxi driver. Don't be surprised to find that public restrooms are mostly squat toilets. Take a toilet roll with you.
How's your day been?
Busy.
Hot.
Sticky.
Yes, I feel very unpleasant at the moment.
Oh, you are generally an unpleasant
It's
specimen.
true.
Before we explain where we are, and forgive us if you can hear lots of noise of folks in the background, why don't we just go back a few hours and explain where we were?
After the CIIS, we went to the SIIS, sorry, the Shanghai Institute for International Studies.
We had a fascinating exchange. We are 6 Israelis on this trip, 2 from think tanks, 4 journalists, and we sat with 4 strategy experts from Shanghai, one of them previously having worked actually at the Truman Institute at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. We had a full and frank conversation about the Middle East, trade, about the state of things between Israel and the Palestinians, and generally about how on earth we bring world peace.
I would say on both sides of the table, on the Institute side and on our side, people had a wide variety of views. But there were some things that united us along the way. There were points where I think we disagreed. But for us as travellers, it was an interesting experience. We're not going to go into the politics here because we're just here to have lots of fun.
We're just flies on the wall when it comes to that type of thing.
So as a reward for behaving ourselves and not embarrassing ourselves at the Shanghai Institute,
bringing about a diplomatic incident.
we went out for a lovely dinner in like an older quarter, possibly French in origin, I think the buildings.
The restaurant was Swedish.
That's also true.
And the bathroom was on another planet. It was really difficult to find.
Yeah, it was in an office building with a magic door at the back.
We kept getting lost, go round and round the building. All 6 of us were getting lost.
But we also saw the building on a more serious note where the first communist conference took place in Shanghai before it moved to Beijing, and it's still preserved. And now
we're moving.
Either we're moving or everybody else is staying still.
If you look to our left, you'll see we are moving, along with dozens, if not hundreds of other people.
Having had another walk on the other side of the Bund, is it called the Bund on the other side?
The Bund on the other side, yes. Or the West Bank.
Let's not go there. We went there at the Shanghai Institute. We're not going there now.
But it's the west bank of the river, which is called the
Huangpu.
So we're looking at the west bank, and we're on the east bank of the Huangpu. There are 2 rivers in Shanghai. One is the Yangtze, but it's right on the edge of the city. And as the leader of this mission, May, said, if you cross the Yangtze, you basically leave Shanghai. But we are right in the centre of the city.
Our boat, the Oriental Pearl 2, is taking us away from the East Bank, and we have a beautiful view of 3 or 4 British colonial buildings from 120, 130 years ago.
From the colonial period.
Well, that was quite a long period, so I don't know. And it's like a waterfront, very reminiscent to, I don't know if anyone's been there, to Liverpool. I'm told that Beijing, when we go there, will have a very similar waterfront with a customs house.
There is quite a lot of similarity at that point to the Seine or the Thames. There are big buildings that clearly, in times gone by and indeed today, would have been trade headquarters. But we also now see lots of hotels, lots of them have stores, and as you see in many locations around the world, lots and lots of neon advertising. So here we are sailing along, our colleagues tired after a long day, but seemingly mesmerised by the view. It really is stunning. There are many other boats on the river. There's one actually, shaped like a dragon, and sponsored by, would that be Pepsi?
No.
What is it then?
It's similar colours to Pepsi.
Oh, I don't know. It says 1935 something, 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 but it looks like the Pepsi symbol. but I don't know. Anyway, there is a dragon boat heading off in the other direction.
This is Mark Gordon from the Jerusalem Post Podcast Travel Edition. Find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter at MarkDavidPod, or mail us at markdavidpod@gmail.com.
You may possibly hear in the distance sounds of drilling and workers. We can see scaffolding around a building. We're not able to go in right now, but it will soon be open to visitors once again. We'll refer back to that building in a moment, but just wanted to give you the context of what you might be hearing. The story really starts more than 1,000 years ago when the first Jewish people came to live in China, the famous Kaifeng Jews. In the 19th century, as we mentioned way back at the start of this podcast, with the Opium Wars, with the development of trade in Shanghai, Jewish people came to this part of the world, amongst the names Sassoon and Kaduri and others, predominantly of the Sephardic communities who came from Iraq, came from India, and developed trade here. But the story that we want to tell you is more about what happened in the period just before and during the Second World War.
David and I are standing in front of a statue, and next to it, it says the Wall of Names of Jewish Refugees in Shanghai during the 1930s and 1940s. In the center of Shanghai, there is the Shanghai Museum of Jewish Refugees, which tells the important story of the involvement of China and Shanghai in saving up to 20,000 Jewish refugees from Europe during World War II.
Here we show the biggest Jewish youth school in Shanghai. That school founded by Kaduri family, also called the Kaduri School. This school taught every student in English. What they taught in the school was according to the entrance examination from the UK and the USA, like SAT. In the classes, we show the progress the students did in the school at the time. You can see how many subjects and what kind of subjects they learned in the school at that time.
This museum is, first of all, a wonderful, wonderful collection of personal stories and facts of the community that came here. They made their way first through the sea, through the Mediterranean, the Suez Canal, and onwards through southern and southeastern Asia. But when Italy, and in fact, Mark, you and I are going to have to go indoors because there is actually a typhoon right now in China, and it's not that far away from us, but we're just feeling the side effects of that. So if you can hear a little bit of wind and so on, we apologise. We're just going to go indoors for a moment.
We've walked back into the gift shop, a really lovely gift shop. I think in keeping with the museum, it's been wonderfully curated. It's a government museum opened a couple of decades ago, and as you walk through the displays, you can see lots of the refugees have come back, have told their stories, have bought some of the articles that they left behind or that they took with them. There's even a story about some books that have been here 70 years waiting for the owner to come back, who sadly passed away and had no children. Every corner of this building has a story to tell, a relatively positive story about people who came here and survived, but also the hardship they suffered between 1943 and 1945 when the Japanese invaded Shanghai, killed millions of people in the surrounding area. The Jews were in a ghetto, not as bad as the ghettos in Europe, but still a very crowded ghetto monitored by the Japanese.
Just want to go back for a minute to what I was saying before the heavens opened, talking about the passage, the routes that people took when they were fleeing Europe. Initially, they went through the Asian route, but then when Italy joined the war, they were unable to leave in that direction for fear of attack and capture by the Italians. So instead, they headed to Hamburg and made their way across, I guess, what today we would think of as being the Trans-Siberian Railway, all the way through cities like Yekaterinburg and into some of the other cities in East Asia where Jewish people settled. And eventually, one of the last ones they got to at the end of the line was here in Shanghai.
I think for our listeners, if you come to Shanghai, this is a must visit. It tells a story that, I'll be honest, I knew very little about before I came here. I was aware Jewish refugees were not accepted in Europe and went to some other places far around the world. The story has been wonderfully put together here. I'm just looking at something in the gift shop that's making me laugh. There's a face mask, a sort of anti-COVID mask, and it's got the pattern of the museum on it.
It's important to say, Mark was talking about the period of 43 to 45. The type of images that you will have seen and read about in Europe in terms of the ghettos, in terms of the permissions to get in and out, having special permits, even if you wanted to see a doctor to go out of the ghetto, those same type of restrictions were imposed here on the Jewish community and indeed in many cases on their Chinese neighbours.
One or two of the very interesting stories you will hear around here. There's the story of Peter Max, a famous artist who's done designs for Continental Airlines, for Norwegian Cruise Lines. He was one of the refugees here. Michael Blumenthal, who was a former US Secretary to the Treasury, was also a refugee here, and his story is told. And as well as those stories, there's the stories of those people who helped get the Jews out of Europe, the righteous amongst the nations from Yad Vashem. Lots to see here. A good 2-3 hours to be spent here learning the story.
At the start of describing this place to you, I said there's a building behind scaffolds that you can't visit today. Now that we're in the gift shop, we can see it in all of its splendour on the side of a bag that you can purchase. It is, of course, the synagogue. In this case, it's the Ohel Moshe synagogue. It's one of two synagogues that existed in the city, both of which are still standing. The other one, though, I believe is in private hands. You can only see it from the outside and is some distance away. But this one, once the refurbishment is completed, you will be able to see. But even while it's closed, this museum is so well worthwhile.
The website, if you want to find out more information, I'll read it out: shhkjrm. That's shhkjrm.com.
Have you listened to the Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition yet? Hi there, I'm David Harris, and together with co-host Mark Gordon, we bring you the very best of the world of travel.
We've had our safety instructions and we're in a basket.
Either the cars are shrinking or we're going higher.
Now sat on a high chair.
You're listening to the last will and testament of Mark Simon Gordon.
We're in the independent micronation of Ujupis.
If I wasn't married, I'd be chasing away your indigenous 78-year-old and taking you for myself.
The drink afterwards, just to calm my nerves, will be number one, but this is definitely up there.
The Jerusalem Post podcast travel edition brings you the joys of travel and tourism. So why not subscribe today wherever you get your podcasts? Chuffa, 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 woo, woo.
Yeah, it's not quite making that sound. Not at 220 miles an hour.
Your voice sounds all deep.
It's because we're going so quickly. My voice box, I think, is still in my seat.
We have just left Shanghai. We're heading to our next destination. We're on a bullet train, and my word, does it almost go as fast as a bullet.
It does, but as does the lady walking down the aisle bringing beer, wine, food, something called, translated as grind dry, but it was a tofu sweet in a bag. Lots and lots of snacks to eat on the way.
When you say the lady, there are probably 5 or 6 different women who've been walking up and down the aisles with different wares, hot drinks. There is a woman who is cleaning the floors the whole time. She wanders up and down, mopping the floors on this train.
And there's television and news that we can watch if we spoke Chinese, which we don't. But there's power, the internet works while you're on the rail, so it's great.
We'll probably talk more about this train at the opening of our next episode, but more on that next time. Mark, thoughts on Shanghai?
I really enjoyed Shanghai. It reminded me of Singapore, a bit like Dubai. It was Shenzhen, but on speed. It's the 3rd biggest city in the world. It's full of record-breaking things to note, like the world's largest metro, the 3rd largest building in the world, the largest port. Shanghai does everything but bigger.
It also has the history which Shenzhen, where we were previously, did not have. It's very busy.
It was busy, but yet, other than a couple of times in the bus, we got where we were going. It wasn't awful.
But let's face it, when we were walking down the Nanjing Road, it was very, 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 very wall-to-wall humanity. A welter, as I said. And if you can hear that noise in the background, that's another trolley being taken into our carriage.
Yes, well, I didn't actually walk there. I was carried by the crowd more as we just 30 deep trying to cross the road. No, it's a phenomenal city. It's an eye-opener. I'd highly recommend going, not just for everything that's large, but also it has a connection for us as Jews. Shanghai hosted 20,000 Jews during World War II. The consul who was sent to Vienna saved those lives along with other people who are in the Righteous of the Nations. It's just a really interesting city.
Time to say some thank yous. At least one Mr. Fu, if not two Mr. Fus.
Two Fus na Feng. Mr. Fu Jihun, who is the Vice President of the Shanghai branch of the Chinese People's Association for Friendship in Foreign Countries. Oh, I got that one out. And then we had Mr. Fu, known as Rex, and Mr. Fung. We never worked out what Mr. Fung was called, other than Mr. Fung.
He was very smiley, very happy, very organising, but with less English than the others. Folks, we know you've enjoyed this podcast, even if there were fewer interviews this time.
Two other people we need to thank, Mr. Wong Qi, also from the Chinese People's Association for Friendship with Foreign Families. The Chinese People Association for Friendship with Foreign Countries, who has accompanied us on the trip, and Mr. Mei Li Chu from the Chinese Embassy in Israel, who has been our guide, our mentor, and entertainment for us along the way, and translator.
Incredible sense of humour. Very sarcastic. For Brits like us, it's wonderful, because sometimes we're looking at him and thinking, is he serious, is he not serious? And then he just bursts out laughing.
And most of the time he's looking at us going, are they being serious? And then he realises we're not.
Please let us know your thoughts on our trip so far to China and any of the other 80, 90, 100 podcasts that you may have heard until this point.
If you enjoyed the podcast, give us a 5-star rating. If you want to talk to us, contact us through our social media at Mark David Pod on Facebook, on Instagram. We're on Twitter as well, or you can write to us on email, markdavidpod@gmail.com.
Mark, time for your favourite bit of the podcast.
Question time. Why is Shanghai called Shanghai? What does it mean?
I know the answer.
Well, give me the answer then, because I'm doing all the talking.
I'm going to sing, and you're going to correct me because I know it's wrong. Under the sea, darling, it's better. Down where it's wetter, take it from me.
So we were on the edge of the typhoon and worried that we might be we were. The lady went by with her bag. I've lost my. Anyway, we were possibly going to be under the sea because we were on a riverboat cruise as the typhoon was getting closer to us in Shanghai. But it means on the sea, not under, thankfully.
Folks, that's it. Hope you've enjoyed. Until the next time, and when we reveal where we're headed on this bullet train. Farewell.
Under the sea.